this is Jerry Springer.
Yeah! The legend.
Is this Uncle Eddie?
This is Uncle Eddie.
A pain in the ass.
How great is it, by the way, that Jerry Springer just said my name?
Yeah.
How great is that?
Yeah.
Well, say all our names so we can all feel good.
Yeah. This is long distance. Am I paying for the call?
No, we'll reverse the charges. That's fine.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Mr. Jerry Springer, sir?
I am doing fine. Yeah, life is good. I've been very lucky. And I'm kind of in semi-retirement now, so it's kind of cool.
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because your shows now are still living on in repeats and everything else. Even your brand new, the Judge Jerry is living on.
Yeah.
So, like, you're never going to go anywhere.
Yeah. I hope not, although we do have a plot where I'm going to eventually go, and it's very nice. It's got nice grass around it, and I've got a headstone, and around the plot will be bleachers, three-sided bleachers, on the side and at the foot. And right over the headstone will be a screen that 24/7 will play reruns of the show.
Nice.
And on my stone, it's going to say, "I won't be right back."
How great will it be that people around Jerry's headstone will be going, Jerry, Jerry, Jerry? Didn't you? By the way,
that'll reach me.
Didn't you? It'll reach you in the afterlife.
Sure.
Didn't you? By the way, didn't somebody? I just read this recently. Weren't you taking a pee at a urinal and people were cheering you on, going Jerry, Jerry?
Is that true?
Yeah. That was probably the most uncomfortable moment of this thing. I was at a, I think it was a Bengals football game, and in the arenas there, during the course of the game or halftime, whatever, guys go to. And these bathrooms, the men's bathrooms in these football stadiums are like 20 yards long. And against the wall are all these urinals.
Yeah.
So there's a line there. There are at least 500 guys in there. And I get spotted. And so when I go up, to take my turn, 500 guys start chanting, Jerry. And, at my age, I have enough pressure. I don't need a chorus.
Did it help out at all, though? Did it help out at all?
Eventually it came out okay.
Yes, Jerry peed.
No, you do what my father did. Poke another hole in.
Oh, it was a great moment. People were high-fiving.
Yeah.
All right, so
an amazing sign.
By the way, Jerry taking a piss at a urinal aside, everybody. We do have. I'm not going to waste it just on his pee-pee habits. No, so we got to talk to the great Jerry Springer. I have to ask this question. When you first started, when you got the show, by this point you were on TV doing news. You were a newscaster, and they had given you a talk show. Okay, now,
yes,
because the rumors and gossip and hullabaloo that I have to hear about then how you were trying to be you, but the people wanted you to be a clone of Phil Donahue. Is that true and accurate? Is that what they told you?
Well, it's not exactly. No, what happened was I had been doing the news for 10 years for the NBC affiliate in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And we were pretty dominant in the ratings. And the company that owned the TV station in Cincinnati also owned talk shows. They owned Phil Donahue, Sally Jesse Raphael, a whole bunch of others. So Phil was retiring after 29 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day, the CEO of the company took me to lunch and said, Phil's retiring, and we're going to start another talk show, and you're going to host it. So I was assigned to it as an employee. And I said, but I enjoy doing the news. They said, well, you'll still do the news, but you're going to do the talk show too. So I'd get up in the morning in Cincinnati, fly to Chicago, do the talk show in Chicago, and then that afternoon fly back to Cincinnati because I had to do the news at 5:30, 6, and 11 every night.
Jesus.
So it started out as a normal kind of talk show. I mean, it was kind of boring, but it was a serious talk show. About 3 years in, or 2 or 3 years in, we did a show on the Ku Klux Klan.
Mm-hmm.
And it got a little out of hand, and people in the audience stormed the stage, and a big fight broke out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a riot. And we had no security because whoever thought a fight would break out at a talk show. So it was just like I'd say 20, 30 people throwing chairs. I mean, it was a real riot. We're thinking, that's it. The show's over. Career's over. This is horrible. And then so and then the next day we hired security. And every once in a while, not every day, but once in a while, a fight would break out, but nothing major. Then Universal bought us.
Yeah.
And when Universal bought the show, they said, from now on, you're only going to do crazy. In other words, we were going to do young people because all the talk shows were trying to be like Oprah Winfrey, go after the middle-aged housewife, which was the demographic at the time. But along came Ricky Lake, and Ricky Lake really was the first talk show to go after the kids. And when I say kids, I mean high school and college age.
Yeah, the younger demographic.
So I just thought, rather than being 1 out of 20 shows going after Oprah's audience, why don't we just be 1 out of 2 and go after Ricky's audience? And so from then on, we decided only young people in the audience, young people on stage, young subject matter. And young people, as you know, are much more open about their lives, much wilder, crazy, or whatever. And that's when the show went crazy. Universal bought us and said, from now on, you only do crazy. And that's how it came about.
Well, how much do you credit the show's success, though, and in turning the world on its ass, to the executive producer, Richard Dominic? Because Richard Dominic came from Penthouse Magazine and was brought in to become the executive producer of your show. And it seems like you and him hit it off from like gangbusters in the beginning. And that's when it started kind of breathing new life into your show.
Oh, he was great. Absolutely. He was great. An amazing executive producer. And there's no question, he deserves the credit. And the show went crazy. He produced the crazy show.
Yeah.
And, I was standing there in my suit, bewildered by it all. See, I was never allowed to know what the subject matter of the show was about.
Okay.
So you would see me walking around holding a card.
Right.
But all the card had on it was the names of the guests. And then my job was to ask questions that you would ask sitting at home, and then make some jokes about it or some quip about it. And so that's what it was. So every day I'd go out there. I hadn't met the people, so that's why I had the names on the card. And every segment started out the same way, me asking the question, hey, here's Bob. Bob, what's going on? And as soon as I said what's going on, he would then tell his story, and the show went from there. And my job was merely to make up jokes and, try to, but be the normal,
Jerry, you did a good job
person in it.
You did a good job. Well, that's the aspect that I like now, knowing that, because it now puts another level on how great you are as a host, because you have that the perception of the audience. The audience has no clue what the hell they're walking into. And if you're the same way, that's cool, too, because now you're looking at it through their eyes and going, holy shit, I got to be,
Keep you on your toes.
Yeah, and that's and that really was the idea, because in truth, I'm a pretty normal, boring guy, and so I was like if you had an uncle or a teacher, would walk into the room where you as a kid were screwing around and joking around or getting into a fight or throwing something, I was like the older presence there. And so I never was involved in the fight.
No.
I never cursed on the show. I wear a suit. At the end, I write my commentary. So, but the idea that I wasn't part of the action, I think, was the genius of Richard Dominic. I mean, that was the only thing I was comfortable with. The truth is, I would not have been comfortable. I'm 30 years old or 40 years older than anyone who was on the show. So it would look just absurd, me getting up there and wrestling and getting beat up and everything. I mean, that would never work, and I wouldn't do it. So I think that's why it worked. But anybody could have done what I've been doing. I mean,
stop being modest, Jerry.
It's true.
No, come on. You did it very, Jerry. You did it very well. Go ahead. 3 things. Go ahead.
Well, it worked. Thank you. But think about it. All you have to do is these 3 sentences. You did what? Come on out. We'll be right back. If you do those 3 sentences, you're a talk show host.
That's how I got this show.
Will you ever shot anyone?
All right, wait, hold on. Billy has a question. Billy, the great Jerry Springer's on our show. Jerry,
we had a request earlier.
Yes.
Somebody wanted to ask the question, like, will you ever?
Please.
Can you go back to Cincinnati and straighten them out because they're in trouble right now? They want you to come back and save them.
Well, that's very kind. I loved it. It really was the best job I ever had, being mayor of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So that I love the city, and I'm still a Bengals fan.
There you go.
And we're looking pretty good right now.
Yeah,
we're looking pretty good. So hopefully, and I also did a podcast there in Cincinnati for 8 years. We did it at a coffee shop there before a live audience, and so I'm there several times a month. And that's very kind. But no, I'm 79 years old. I don't need to be running for office or doing any of that anymore.
Don't worry, whoever asked the question. Jerry is here to save Cincinnati, but he'll do it on his own time. Okay, but he'll get it done.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
By the way, if I don't do this, our weatherman is going to freak the fuck out. Frankie McDonald wants to say hi to Jerry Springer. He's doing it through the Facebook Live.
Okay.
Jerry, he wants you to know he's Frankie McDonald. He's a YouTuber weatherman who dances from Sydney, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Sydney.
I said Sydney. Did I say Cindy?
You said Cindy.
Yeah, so he wants you to know that because he is a YouTube celebrity. He's a big deal in Canada, and he wants you to know that now that I've done my part. Jerry, when you're done running Cincinnati and relaxing, you can look up the one and only
Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia. He's all the way up there in Nova Scotia.
I was actually thinking of moving there when Trump was elected.
There you go. You see, what could have been is what I'm saying. What could have been?
Yeah, it could have been. I could have been.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yes, Billy.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway,
Start up your.
Well, anyway, so Nova Scotia, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yes, Billy. What do you got?
If you start up
but the weather there, I mean, it's always cold. It's like doing the weather in San Diego.
Yeah, it never changes really.
Mm-hmm. But
you just say the same thing every day.
He covers the world when he does the weather. So if you start your podcast again and you need a weatherman, reach out to him. He'll cover everything you need to know.
We'll give you our weatherman, Frank.
Perfect.
You can have Frankie McDonald.
Okay, yeah, I'll trade you. Yeah, I'll tell you what. We'll take the weatherman for 2 newscasters to be
named later. Nice.
That'll be the deal.
See, we're cutting deals, people. We're cutting deals with Jerry.
Go.
Jerry used to be a politician. He knows how to cut the deals. Don't worry about it. He knows.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple of other questions that I got to throw out here. Is it true? Yes, again, because, by the way, since you are a legend, Jerry, there are rumors, gossip, hullabaloo, like I said before, and I want to clear something up. Did you wrestle a bear in 1980 to raise money for the Olympics?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Now, did you?
I don't know that it. I'm not sure it was for the Olympics, but it was for a charity. Yes.
Okay, and you got you get your ass kicked.
Yes, I did. Well, what it was like, I think it was televised. It was on the local, all 3 television stations. Put it on their 6 o'clock news live. I would go to the convention center, And I would go in the ring, and for every 1 minute round that I lasted with the bear, we would get, I think it was $10,000.
Nice.
So, and the bear, well, the bear was wearing a muzzle, so I knew I wouldn't get bitten by the bear, but he would otherwise, whack me. His name was, the bear's name was Victor, and he weighed 550 pounds. Okay, so it's the first round. I'm scared to death, and I'm dancing around there, staying out of the way of him, dancing around, and the trainer said to me, "You'll be okay, just don't touch him on the nose." So I obviously did not touch him on the nose. So after one round, the crowd's cheering, $10,000, this is great. Let's go to round two. Now, I'm a young guy. In 1980, I was, 36 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm dancing. I'm starting to feel a little cocky now. I said, what if I just tap him on the nose? That's the last thing I remember.
Oh, God.
There are pictures and videos of me in the air. And like an idiot, I had my glasses on.
Oh.
I go down face first. I'm in the air, land face first on the canvas. The bear jumps on top of me.
Wow.
Now, I'm the mayor. I can't cry. Mayors aren't supposed to cry.
There's no crying in mayoring.
There's no crying.
There's no crying in mayoring.
The bear should have been pulled off me.
Nah.
And it eventually was. But there were pictures in the newspaper. Yeah, that's a true story.
Yeah, because I heard you went the next day. You went to a council meeting and you had a big lump on your face.
He did tell you not to touch his nose.
Boy, that scars. I mean, he pounded.
He mauled him.
But I was warned, so it was my own fault.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry, you're to blame.
Being hard-headed.
I blame Jerry Springer.
No.
We all would have done it.
Which, by the way, that was another thing. The blame of Jerry Springer. You went in front of a city council because at one point I remember there being, I think it was a priest who came out and made it his mission to end the Jerry Springer show. It became like his.
No, what?
Go ahead. You fill me in. I could be wrong. Go ahead.
No. Well, you're around the edges. Here's what happened.
Okay.
There was we taped the show in Chicago,
mm-hmm.
and this was in the mid '90s. This was during the show's heyday. The ratings were unbelievable, and there was a councilman in Chicago who, figured this was a great issue. He'd get a lot of play, national publicity, to ban the show in Chicago. And his argument was, since our security were off-duty Chicago police officers,
mm-hmm.
when there was a fight, when there was an assault, why weren't these people arrested by the Chicago police? And if the only answer they thought they would get is if the show was fake, in other words, it wasn't a real assault, no one was going to get hurt,
mm-hmm.
so that's why they weren't arrested. But, of course, if we ever faked the whole thing, then that would be the end of the show.
Absolutely.
So he figured he had us either way. Either these police officers have to be fired for not arresting the guest, and then, of course, how could we continue the show if everyone knew that they would be arrested if they got out of their chairs? And the other way was to say, it's all fake, and that would kill the show, too. So they had hearings. The entire city council subpoenaed me to come. They invited me. It wasn't a subpoena. I voluntarily came.
You offered to go to the witch hunt.
Yes, and it was the entire hearing was carried live on CNN, MSNBC, Fox. In other words, it was a big story.
Nice.
So I go up to the hearing, and I figured this. First of all, legally they had no basis at all because it's under the First Amendment, and
mm-hmm.
the FCC is the only one that controls the airwaves. So no local community has the authority to say something can't be on the air.
Absolutely.
Only the FCC can do that. And you could understand that, because if every community in America can make its own decision whether it's allowed, you'd have no national television. Competitors would just file a complaint for their opposition.
And everything would be off, yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to lose case. Anyway, so we're about an hour and a half, 2 hours into the hearing already. You know, the questions were coming, not difficult. And I had a young attorney that works for the show sitting next to me, and I told him, I said, look, every once in a while, I'm going to lean over and whisper in your ear like you see in the movies, and you pretend to be giving me advice. They ask a question, and then I'd put my hand on the microphone, I'd lean over, whisper into his ear, and all I would say is blah, 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 blah. And, of course, he would laugh. And so then came the final question. They had a big screen there, a packed City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And on the screen, they showed one horrendous fight. And then they stopped the tape in the middle, and he turned to me and said, Mr. Springer, is this fight real? And honestly, it was like the entire audience, which was mostly fans of the show,
mm-hmm.
but there were a lot of people that didn't like it. There was a collective holding of the breath. Is this fight real? And he says, you're under oath. And so what do I do now? Either answer will kill the show.
Yeah.
So I said, well, it looks real to me.
Good enough.
What? Now what?
Now what are you going to do?
What are they going to say?
Yeah.
I say, you got to be inside the mind of the guy who's slapping someone or pulling the wig.
Yeah.
Are they doing it because it's fun? Are they doing it because they enjoy being on television? This will be great. Are they doing it because they're really angry? I have no idea what their intention was. And so I said, yeah, it looks real. But they can't stop the show because fights look real. And that was the end of it.
Well, and that because of the also you not knowing anything going out there. Technically, you had deniable plausibility. You plausible deniability. I'm sorry, I got retarded there and started speaking backwards.
Oh yeah,
you could actually say I didn't know anything. These two groups started fighting. I don't know. It's real to me, and technically it was real to you.
Right, but I firmly believe to this day that the first fight that ever was on the show was because people really were angry.
Yeah.
That was the fight with the Ku Klux Klan. That was serious. That was a riot.
Yeah.
But after that, the only people who ever appeared on our show were people, obviously, who were fans of the show. No one would come on our show who were upset with it or in other words, everyone who came on the show knew the drill. Yeah. They had seen the show 100 times before.
Yeah, they knew.
The reason is the only way you could be on our show is by calling our show. And we're not in the phone book. The only way you could call the show is at the end of the show, our number was on the screen. So the only way you'd know the number is by watching it lots of times. Okay. So therefore, whoever came on the show was, they kind of knew. You could get those same people. Let's say Oprah had them on. They would totally behave themselves.
Of course.
They would dress better. They would behave themselves, everything. So that is why, after a while, it became, if you were on the show, you were going to get angry. But the truth is, we blooped out all the bad language. Any nudity, we pixelated over it so you couldn't see anything. So compared to what's on social media today, it really was Mary Poppins.
Damn right.
If you look at the shows of the 90s now, you'd say, oh, my gosh, that's nothing compared to what everything.
That's all right, because we brought it later on the video.
Yeah, I was just about to say, if you went out and you ventured out and bought the Too Hot for TV
I had
Jerry Springer ones, there was no pixelation, there was no beeping, no censoring, no nothing.
That was people would have to, purchase it.
Yeah, they had to make that decision.
On the open market. And that was, so no one's going to complain about that if they went to purchase it.
No.
That was a hot video that the company chose to chose to do. Again, those decisions are made by the people who own the show. It was a very successful tape. I think it was the VHS tape was the biggest selling tape of a TV show.
Well, that's like right now in the Facebook Live suite, Sarah the Sorter Lesbian says that cancel culture didn't exist yet. So you also had more people just going, fuck it. I want to see the boobies. I want to hear the beefs. I want to see the people fight. I want people to chant Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. I want to enjoy it, and I didn't have to worry about being canceled because I spent my hard-earned greenbacks to buy the damn, the VHS at the time, or the DVD, depending on which one of you had more money than me. The DVD. I only had the money for the VHS.
I had the VHS.
I had to borrow that shit.
Oh.
We weren't making Jerry Springer money, kids. That's what happens. All right, so I do have to, because I know we got to wrap up in a little bit, so I do want to ask you this, though, because recently, Jerry, you were interviewed on some show that I don't remember the name of right this very second, but you sat there and you apologized, and you said you apologized for, quote, ruining the culture, end quote. And then you also said, quote, I just hope hell isn't that hot, because I burn easy. I'm very light complexion. I have a very light complexion. End quote. So
I said that.
Yeah. So now, if given the time, wait, go ahead.
A little bit. No, it's a little bit tongue in cheek.
Oh no, of course.
And I had all. Yeah. So he was. I think whoever was interviewing me was saying, "Do you have any regrets?" Which I didn't, but I didn't want to get real serious. So I said, well, I just hope hell isn't that hot. I burn real easy.
Yeah.
I'm very light complected. And that loosened the moment. And because the show was stupid. I mean, it was silly.
Exactly.
It was like chewing gum. It won't save the world, but it won't ruin it either. We had a Holocaust before anyone had a television set.
Absolutely.
So it's not as if television created bad behavior. We have always had bad behavior, and it always should be condemned, and we raise our children, hopefully, to outgrow that and behave well and all that. So that's what you do. But I couldn't, with all the real problems going on in the world, I never really took a TV show that seriously. I mean, it was stupid. And again, it wasn't anything I would watch because I was already in my 60s and 70s, and the show wasn't aimed at older people. The show was aimed at young people in there from 16 to 30. That was the age group. And now if you talk to people who are in their upper 30s or 40s or 50s, they say, yeah, I grew up with your show.
Absolutely.
So, and they grew up with it, but they wouldn't watch it now.
I'd watch it.
I know many that still do watch the reruns.
Where do you think I got to steal show ideas from you, Jerry? What are you talking about? Of course I have to watch it.
Just send me 10%.
Damn right. We'll give him a little bit off the top. It's all right.
Isn't his your ex-security, don't he still have a show on there?
Steve Wilcox.
And I hope you're getting a cut from that.
Oh, yeah. Well, Steve, yeah, he's a good friend. And, yeah, I'm one of the producers of the show.
Okay, yeah.
Of course, Jerry's name has to be on that. He made Steve.
He should make a surprise appearance. You should come on and make a surprise appearance.
He's doing a real great job himself.
Oh, absolutely. We've had Steve on the show. We've had Steve on the show. I interviewed Steve at one of the Comic-Cons. He was at one of the Comic-Cons. I interviewed him, too. Great guy. Totally down to earth. Very nice. Very good. Just like you, Jerry. Very nice. Down to earth.
Yep.
Now, by the way, Jerry was talking about that he was on this other radio show and somebody interviewed him. So far, I think Jerry Springer has had more fun on our show. I just want that documented. That Jerry, he was laughing his ass off, so I think we made Jerry Springer laugh, so that's a plus.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, it's not every day I have a legend on my show. I have to, accommodate and make sure I make you have a good time. So
it's like you bought your A game.
I'm trying to. I bought it. I brought it today. By the way, so a lot of people saying that Jerry Springer was always on my TV when I came home from school. That's from Trish. Now, one of the other things I want to ask you, because you had all this stuff go on in your life, and you've talked about this before. You've acknowledged everything that went on when you were during your political stuff, And but I really do. This is the one burning question that I have to ask you. Jerry, who the hell cuts a check for a prostitute? Like, seriously, buddy. What the hell, man? Come on.
Yeah.
At what point did you say I'm going to...
You never ever did anything stupid in your life. Anyway, this is
I'm just saying.
We learned from you.
I'm just saying, dude. I'm not knocking you for having the prostitute. I'm just going, who went... Wait a minute, let me get my checkbook.
Shit, that way he could stop the check. If she ain't shit, he can stop the check.
That's true. Yeah, you could stop the check. That's true.
You wouldn't if what you were doing you thought was wrong.
No.
In other words, you can't argue both ways. You can't say it's not bad what you did.
No, it's not.
And then say, but why did you write a check? If it wasn't bad, why not? When you go and buy something in a store, and if you write a check for the product, nobody says, why are you writing a check?
Check is
yes,
good.
but prostitution has a really bad return policy. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
you're right in the little corner.
But it was, in fairness, it was 52 years ago.
Oh, I know.
You cut me a little.
I'm cutting Jerry. First off, trust me, I had to ask the question just for personal reasons. Let me tell you, I will cut you.
Why are you thinking of doing that?
Yeah.
I honestly, I really was. Don't do it. Jerry Springer has taught me not to do it.
Listen, I used food stamps one time.
Yeah. You're not as bad as Ricky. Ricky used food stamps to get a hooker.
Stamps one time.
So...
She was okay with it. I took her to the store and got her some groceries.
Yeah. She got a bag of chips after she had sex with him. So, come on now. You can't worry about that. That to me, I imagine, taking out the checkbook, it makes me laugh every time. I love you, Jerry. I'm telling you, you're one of the greatest people in the world. But I just wow. I just didn't understand.
Times, man. Women didn't even have credit cards back then.
Well, now they're walking around with the things. Now you can just scan your debit card and all kind of shit. Yeah. They keep it in there. They keep it by their tits, and you just scan it now. You know.
Yeah. Next time, use Apple Pay.
Barcode on you or something.
That's what we're gonna do. On that note, I hope I haven't alienated Jerry Springer. I just had to ask that question because it was just...
You have not.
Yes.
You have not. This has been a lot of fun being on. You're a good guy. You're very talented.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. This is Jerry Springer saying this, everybody. Pay attention.
This is good.
Thank you.
The bed's kicked in.
All right, so what we learned today from Jerry...
Jerry pull some strings.
We'll let Jerry do a final thought, too, if he wants to. But listen, we've learned that the fights were 100% real to him.
Absolutely.
He fought a bear.
Yes.
All right.
I put the video
up. The bear
up.
won.
Yes, by the way, we have the video in our Facebook Live suite of Jerry Springer fighting the bear in 1980. We found the video. Billy found it. It's up in the Facebook Live suite. You can watch it right now if you wish.
That bear was stuck to solid bear shit.
He's having flashbacks of the bear. Hold on.
He did the bear shit on him.
Man.
Yeah.
You're a crazy person.
We learned that the executive producer Richard Dominic did change the show, but we also learned that Jerry had a vision of the show too, and he also didn't know anything. It's a genius move. Because that way, number one, Jerry can't. I didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. I'm just hosting a talk show, and then on top of it,
well, it's not that. Yeah. But the reason is not to be. Obviously, my name was on the show.
Yeah.
It was that I'm not a great actor. So if I knew what was going to happen,
sure,
then any reaction I had would look fake.
Right.
So the only way it would be authentic is if I was told what was happening the same time the audience was.
Sure.
So then the reaction I had is a normal response. That is what made it funny. If I already knew, it would be horrible. It would be like, oh, my God, what just happened?
Excuse me, Jerry, though.
Go for that.
Excuse me, Jerry. I would like to call bullshit because I saw the movie Ringmaster. You are a very good actor. Don't take that away from yourself, sir.
You had me for a minute.
I guess the Academy doesn't have my address.
No.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. Tom Hanks always got your award. I'm sorry.
Did anything ever shock you on the show, Jerry? Were you ever shocked?
Were you ever shocked by anything on the show? Joe wants to know.
genuinely shocked.
Like, holy shit! What am I? What am I doing?
Like, stop taping. Stop taping.
The only time I was, and then I got to go.
Okay.
But the only time I was we had the guy who married his horse, and
that would shock me.
He lived in Branson, or right outside Branson, Missouri, and the show started with him. I don't remember his name. I'll just say Bob.
Mm-hmm.
So the show starts with Bob sitting in a chair on the stage, and I say, "Welcome, everyone. Here's Bob." And as I did every time, I said, "Bob, what's going on?" And Bob, who's about a 50-year-old man, says, "Well, I'm having trouble with the neighbors." I said, "Oh, what's the problem?" They say they don't like my wife. I said, "Why?" And he said, I don't know. She keeps to herself. She's quiet. She doesn't argue. And I said, I'm thinking this is going nowhere. So I look at the card, see who the next guest is, and the next guest is Pixel. Well, let's meet her. Here's Pixel. Out comes this horse. The crowd goes crazy. But I'm thinking what any normal person would think is that his wife fell off the horse backstage. So I say, oh, my gosh, cut the cameras. And Richard Dominic is waving at me. No, that's his wife. What?
Yeah, really.
And, so that was one time it would have helped if I would have known.
Oh, phenomenal.
Anyway, guys, thank you very much for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just kick him out the proper way. Ladies and gentlemen, the legend of TV talk, the one and only Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
Round of applause for Jerry Springer.
Hey,
Jerry,
thanks, guys.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Absolutely.
See ya.